Hi guys, my name is Christina and welcome to my channel and welcome to yet another episode of the Drawing Podcast. How are you guys doing? How was your weekend? Mine was actually not as full of drawing as it usually is, and as you can see by the length of this podcast, I usually have them around an hour long. This one is just 28 minutes long, and that is because I didn't draw as much that weekend. And sometimes, some weekends, I don't draw as much. And actually with this one, I'm gonna talk a little bit. It's just I couldn't get in my most efficient mode, and I'm not sure why. Yeah, I'm just not sure. I think maybe because the pages that I have left currently in the scene, they are more complicated. They're not just portrait shots type of thing when you actually focusing on the face of the character. This is the ones that I just fly through. This is the ones that are more challenging poses that need a lot of thinking through, more focusing, and I think that's why. And I know a little bit going through them a little bit and I know for a fact that it's something that happens all the time by the end of the scene. It's happening mostly because that by the end of the scene, what I'm leaving is the pages that were not the ones that I really wanted to draw right away. So as you know, I'm not drawing in any particular order. I'm just, choosing the scene and I'm drawing within the order of the scene. So if I have obviously different choices to make, I jump between panels and pages, and what happens, I naturally pick the ones that I want to draw the most and feeling like drawing the most. And usually by the end of the scene, the ones that are left are the ones that are more challenging, the ones that I looked at for some time and was like, no, I'm not gonna draw them. I'm gonna draw some other ones. So these are the ones that I left, and for this particular page is just, first of all, I definitely enjoy drawing the face of my character. I really love the drawing faces and whatnot. However, for this particular one, I wasn't sure how I want to create transition, and this is something that does slow me down in drawing, being not sure what I'm doing, being not sure what is my direction with this particular, panel or this particular page. It's just with this one, I particularly like how I set it up in line art. So currently I'm drawing the face of this guy. I'm kind of looking concerned. He's kind of, focusing on something that is in front of him, not sure what he's seeing, what he's hearing. And the panel on the right is where he's actually hearing something. He actually hears a sound, and he hears the sound of the string of the bow being stretched. And this is the sound that he recognizes and the one he picks up. So I was trying to combine, in the line, kind of try to overlap the image of his face looking kind of a little bit scared, and at the same time kind of overlap it with the image of this arrow being drawn or this string being stretched. And as I was thinking how to do that, it's just started to hurt my brain a little bit because I didn't know how to find the right and the pretty way to go around it. And in the end, I decided to kind of divide it and have one panel of his face reaction and another panel when I will be showing the drawstring being pulled back. And I wasn't and this is another thing, because as I will be drawing this drawstring, did I say drawstring? That's not what I meant, the string from the bow. And so when I say scene and I say that I'm drawing within the scene, it means that I'm working with the specific color palette, basically. That's why it's easy for me to jump around, because I have a certain color reference board that I have set up for the scene. So that's why it's very easy for me to jump around within the scene. So when, again, something like this happens, for example, this bowstring, it happens deeper in the woods and the colors would be different. So I know that as I'm drawing this page, I cannot really finish this panel unless I have to go and set up the new color board, and I need to set up a new reference board with new colors and work with them. And I was apprehensive, so also to me it's a little bit demotivating if I have something on the page that will prevent me from finishing this page, because I know I will draw everything I can on this page, but then I will leave this element for the last, when I will be actually working on different panels that have this within the woods darker color palette. So this is also what's kind of slowing me down. So it's to me, what slows me down and makes me a little bit unmotivated is when I don't know what I'm doing, so I don't have this clear direction. So for me, clear direction is key, and with this one I didn't have it. And also I yeah, this one I started drawing pigeon. I just love drawing pigeon, but I didn't finish. It's like if I know that I cannot finish the page, like there will be just panel left that I cannot touch, that is just inefficient to touch, like something in me just doesn't motivate me to push forward to the finishing, and I tend to, you know, spend a little bit more unnecessary time on some elements. I don't know, just dragging along. I don't know, there's something psychologically yes happening in this situation. And I think this pigeon, I even didn't finish, like I started working on this pigeon, but I didn't even finish him. And yeah, overall, I was not in that kind of drawy mood. I don't know. It's like maybe because I'm doing a lot of creative projects lately, and obviously my comic is my primary one. It's still, I think, normal to have to be like in certain creative moods, and I think I maybe was pushing myself a little bit with this page because I actually drew the necessary amount of pages for the month, for the March. And I like my goal is to draw at least 4 pages per month. This is the minimum that I have to do. Ideally, I would like to do 8. But if, for example, I have a lot of other things going on, and especially in the last month, I was a little bit slower just because I was outlining. I allow myself to be easy on myself just because sometimes, I mean, you have to not push yourself with art. Like there is obviously some things when you have to push yourself to, you know, keep yourself motivated and push yourself from in the situation when you're actually being a little bit lazy, being a little bit unsure, you know, being too distracted, it's trying not to commit too much. Like there is a situation when you have to push yourself. But in my case, I don't really have the problem with not being motivated or being lazy, or, you know, don't want to do something like because I'm like just want to do something else like watch TV or something. This is not usually my case. I usually always like to draw and create something. So for me, I know that sometimes I don't have to push myself, because if I don't feel like doing something, I might be just tired, and I might just, you know, need to just, you know, just not think about things, just have this, you know, moment when you just lie on the bed or lie on the sofa and just looking at the ceilings and your brain needs to relax. Maybe that's what I was having. But yeah, I just noticed that this weekend I was drawing a little bit slower, and I absolutely don't know what to contribute it to. Have no idea, but anyway, I'm still very happy with at least how the panels are getting along. By the time I'm recording this voiceover, I didn't finish this page still. And yeah, and actually, okay, also another thing that was stopping me from kind of getting full on with this page, again, like not knowing what I'm doing, not having clear direction. And I guess what who contributed the most to this is this character, the character I still don't have a name for, and I probably will come up with her name later, but at this point her name is just not important. But I mean, not having a name doesn't stop me from, you know, writing a character. I still can write a character. I don't need to know their name. They still have personality and character. But with her is so you know, it's like there is some situation with drawing, at least for me, is when you draw something and it gives you hard times, when you get problems drawing this thing. Sometimes next time you sit in to draw it, you have this weird apprehension that last time wasn't, you know, didn't work out for you, and then this time that you're drawing, you're a little scared, a little bit concerned. So last time when I was drawing her, I wasn't really happy with her face. It's like every time I drew her face for this scene, basically this is the only scene she appears in, and for some reason every time I draw her particular face, I'm not happy with how it I'm not happy with how it, you know, looks, and I'm not sure why. And you see, I'm using the reference, the one on the left. This, I was struggling on that one forever. It was the first time when I actually got to draw her face completely, like full on close up, nice, like nicely rendered, and I was struggling with this one. And I'm absolutely not sure why her face is just particularly difficult. Maybe because her skin has this more cool blue undertones that sometimes I just don't feel if they're working right. Maybe just the shape of her face a little bit. And it's like also I just maybe went a little bit out of my comfort zone with drawing her face in particular. It's just not the typical female face that I choose to draw. And also I feel I didn't actually just nail her as a character just look wise. I have idea of kind of her personality, but I didn't get an idea of how she, you know, like her look, the vibe of her appearance, I didn't get a good grasp. And so I feel like every time I draw in her face, again and again with different panels, I'm still looking for kind of the vibe of her face. It's like I need to draw her a little bit more to get it. And I just feel like, so with this panel, I'm a little bit struggling. Like I struggle with kind of every time I draw her face. That's why also I'm very apprehensive drawing her or drawing any page or panel that has her. And I'm not sure why in particular. I think like obviously I want to talk a lot about drawing ethnicity and drawing like people of different like racial backgrounds, because it's very important to know as an artist, and this is something that I'm really passionate in understanding. But it's also, even though I think I kind of know what I'm, you know, how to do that, I understand how to do this, and most of the time I succeed, I feel like sometimes I struggle with this odd situation, because if I, for example, obviously characters in my story, most of characters in the northern province, they took inspiration from like Asian people, the way they look. And this is something that I always wanted to do. And I think I talk a lot of other episodes of why there's a lot of reasons, because like, first of all, you know, it can be that the fantasy world is populated by white people, and it can be the starting point of fantasy world where your protagonist lens is, you know, just happens to be white people only. There is nothing wrong with white people at all, but it's just, I just always wanted to have looks of people from different ethnicities in my story that don't come with culture. So I don't want to, you know, create Asian looking characters and so everybody in vacation look kind of Asian and have the story have vibes of Avatar The Last Airbender, like Asian based fantasy. Like I just think I don't like that. I feel like your ethnicity shouldn't dictate your fantasy world, you know. It's kind of weird. Fantasy world is so not limited, like you can do literally whatever you want, and yet for some reason if we're taking characters from other different ethnic group, we tend to take also their culture as a base for the fantastic element. It's just strange. So I don't know, it's like I have a lot of my like opinions here, and yeah, it's just my act of defiance to what I'm seeing in the fantasy currently. However, with people with darker skins, it's kind of trickier because skin is dark. Because it has a lot of melanin as a reaction to a lot of exposure to the sun, because melanin protects your skin from the sun. This is how you get tan, and those people kind of have the high volume of melanin in their skin and their hair already because they're constantly exposed to the sun. So this is kind of trickier path to go because they have to be from hotter countries, and with countries or places that exposed to the sun. Anyway, I'm really digressing. I swear I'm gonna make a series of videos about this, but yeah, so it's like, but still obviously because my characters clearly are like based on the way Asian people look, some, like most of the times I'm fine drawing the face of different ethnicity, but in other times where, especially when it has to do with emotions, and this is, I think, very interesting subject on its own to discuss, because the way people express their emotions really a lot of the time is dictated by their cultural background, where they're from. But if you notice, for example, the way people express emotions in North America, how people express their emotions in Korea, how people express their emotions in Japan, in China, or in Middle Eastern countries, for example, it's really has to do a lot with culture. What is appropriate, what is not appropriate, how expressive you can be, how you can express certain things. And you know, it's kind of, so it creates this weird thing. So for example, if people from Korea, they have very minimalistic kind of emotional range, because they, you know, there is a lot of cultural things that going on, and every time, like, just look at the media that they have, and I'm not saying like K-pop, I'm saying like watch some TV shows that they have, watch news, watch videos on YouTube created by Korean creators. They have very small and content emotions, and you it kind of dictates also because it's kind of this huge group of people who have a certain appearance, right? And they also have certain way how they express the emotions, how their face basically moves, and how they use muscles of their face to express certain emotions. So those things starts to blend, like the way you express emotions with kind of the way certain group of people looks like. But if you think fantasy world, I can have this character that has like look of an Asian person, but they don't have Asian culture or whichever country you choose as a background. They have their own, and they can express emotions differently. And the way they express emotions, like, I don't know, I guess I'm maybe imposing more of a maybe European way of expressing emotions, because this is kind of my background growing up. So I don't know. So this creates this weird clash where I have the face of one ethnicity, but then I apply kind of emotion rules, like the way face emotes and like how they express the emotions of another ethnic group. And then to me in my brain, when I look at my drawing, it looks a little strange, because my eyes, the person living in the human world, real world, it's doesn't recognize that as correct look, So I don't know. It's really just very interesting subject for me to think about, and I actually started thinking about it a lot. I saw a video on YouTube. It was talking about a Chinese lady, an older Chinese lady, and she adopted American boy, and he was black, of African descent. And which is so interesting is that they were showing basically this guy grew up now, so he's like adult, but he grew up in China, in a very, not the rural, but not like in a huge city. He still has like this more, just your standard city in China kind of vibe. I mean, I'm not saying like a huge megapolis or something like this on the, a village, just very standard. And it's very interesting because they would take an interview from him, and he was speaking Chinese, and the way he was speaking, because he was speaking Chinese language that was to him his native language, this is the language he learned, and also he was brought up in this culture. And it was very weird effect, because on the one hand your eyes can see that he is an African American, right? Clearly visually you can recognize him of this ethnic group. Like you obviously see the color of his skin, you can see like his build and whatnot, but at the same time the way his face moves is extremely Chinese, and at some point your brain kind of starts getting confused and doesn't even read him as black person at all, because of how his face works. He starts, your brain reads him as Chinese person. It's very strange. I don't know how to explain it. If you can look it up. I actually, unfortunately, just don't know the name of the video. This is just something I found. It's just started to fascinate me of how all of those things work, and how cultures and ethnicities, they clash, and how, I don't know, it's just fascinating. So I think what's happening with her, and what I notice happens with some of my characters, and I'm not sure yet how I'm gonna address it and what I'm gonna be doing with them. It's because the way I'm drawing emotion for them, it's not really I'm not really basing their emotional expression on any Asian country. I'm basing it just on kind of my own ideas of how I want to draw emotions being expressed. And from there on, I'm also built in like Northern province culture that is pretty expressive, and I don't know. And I think at this point, my brain kind of starts reading her strange, and it's hard for me, like, because every time you draw something, you judge. Part of you draws it, another part of you constantly judges it as, is it correct? Is it correct? Does this look right? Like this look natural? And my brain constantly gives me those weird errors and warnings about some of my characters. And I don't know, I just thought I'd share. I know that overall topic of, ethnicity and all of that is pretty controversial these days to discuss on the internet. And I don't think, I mean, obviously it's if you talk about this in a negative way, don't. But I think we should, especially as artists, we should have those discussions, and because we want to represent and draw people correctly and right, and we just want to, notice the beauty of all kinds of people. And I don't know, it's just for me, being brought up in Russia, it's I have a very different perspective of how things works because I wasn't brought up in North America, and so it's I don't know. So this is kind of a very big, like, it's something that I keep thinking about, and something that I feel like maybe makes my drawing process a little bit different for me, because and especially with this character is I don't know, like every time I draw her I struggle a little bit, and this I'm sure is one of the reasons. Another of the reasons just because I didn't get the feeling of her visual identity. Another character that I did get the feeling of, it's his name is Dark. He has a name, maybe that has maybe has something to do with this. And Dark with a C, I guess, because I'm so creative I couldn't figure out a better name. But with him, for some reason, I immediately got the vibe of his visual identity. He kind of has this smug face, very confident posture, and kind of, I know how his eyes move, so it's like every time I draw him from different angles, I have absolutely zero problems getting him right. And I don't know, like, this is the guy that he's actually on the right from her, so I don't know, it's just fun thing that I noticed. But I kind of spent more time than I usually spend on this page, and I'm not sure why. And this, I think, are some of the reasons why. And just sometimes, that's why, like, I like to have this weekend drawing podcast thing, just because I like kind of sharing with you what I'm thinking as I'm drawing, and what, like, just how it feels to actually be drawing your comic page after page, and what you think about, and how you think about things you want to improve, and how you think about all of the small things. And I just recorded video for Thursday, like just standard video, like talking in front of the camera, where I'm talking about how art is criticized. And I mentioned in some of the YouTube videos when people are talking how they would rewrite the ending of this TV show, rewrite the ending of Game of Thrones, or something like this. And they position it as if, like, wow, those artists, those creators, those writers, oh my god, they must be so stupid, they didn't think about those small things. But artists, writers, we think about so many things when we're drawing something like comic or writing something like a novel. We think about so many things, and only maybe 2% of this actually solidifies itself in the final product. And just to me, it's like hilarious how people think that, they come in like with those small notes. The thing is, fixing something small in your story is not hard because we're stupid. It's just hard because it's so many things to think of. Like, your brain literally need to have like a major RAM to process the huge volumes of information, especially if you're creating something this long, like, for example, my story, or like novels or series of novels. It's very hard to keep it all in mind, but overall, there's so many things you think of when you're creating something. And usually I would suggest, when you're creating something, you would want to think about all of those things. You want to put so much thought into this, and you ideally want to break it all down, and you want to do that, because if you don't do this, that you probably not caring about your story as much as you should. I don't know, that's my opinion. If you're creating something and you don't worry about this much and you still create great art, please let me know how you're doing this. I'm really interested. But for me, I keep thinking about all of those things, and especially this ethnic aspect of my story, because this is kind of like a big point, like the kind of the story of how different we can be, and how we need different people to create a rounded world, and how difference is so beautiful actually. And this is such an important part of my story, and that's why, I don't know, it's important to me that I actually get a lot of things that people being different in our human world with not, I wouldn't say respect, because I feel like if you're gonna say I'm trying to get it like respectful, it's almost like you feel like you want nobody to be angry with you. I'm trying to do it thoughtfully, and I try to think it through, and I need to know why I'm doing certain moves, and I want to have the point that I'm making, and I want to have a thought process, and something. I don't want to just do it because it's cool, because it's trending, because it's woke, because I want to represent someone, because I want people to think I'm just, so nice and virtuous. And I don't know. I don't want to do this like this. I want to think all of my things through in my story. So yeah, it's I really derailed here. But again, it's podcast. We're talking. That's the point, to derail. But yeah, this is kind of like why in this particular weekend I didn't draw much. I was a little bit slow, and maybe I should have given myself a little bit more of a rest that I did, and just let myself to just relax and not worry and not push myself, because I did by this time finish 6 pages, so which is more than 4, which means I technically should be able to relax. But sometimes I don't, and sometimes with the comic I don't relax, because typically comic brings me relaxation, but because I was also working a lot of different freelances and doing a lot of different creative things and different like gigs and stuff, that's why when I got to my comic, I already was tired, and I was assumed that my comic gonna make me relax, but I already was arriving there in the tired state. So I don't know, basically during this episode you witness not the most productive weekend of my life. And actually, because I'm recording a week, like voiceovers a week later, actually my next weekend is also not going to be as long, because but I did a lot of work on the week itself. So but unfortunately this is not what I'm sharing on YouTube. This is something that I share with my patrons on the Patreon. But yeah, this week is more relaxed, more chill. You guys, if you made it to the end of this video, let me know how your weekend been. Have you been drawing? What haven't you been drawing? Is any of my videos motivating you guys to draw more of the comic or more of your story? I'm really curious, because that's kind of the point of what I'm doing here, just sharing things and making, creating art more natural. And I see a lot of writing channels on YouTube, and I think I want to see more of a drawing channels like this, kind of when people are sharing their drawing process and comic creating, because also I feel like mainstream media is converting to comics currently. But yeah, I don't know, we'll chat more in the next episode, but that's kind of it for this one. Thank you so much guys for watching, and I will see you in my very next one. Have a good week guys. Thank you so much. Bye.